Every day, modern shipping logistics move billions of dollars of cargo across the ocean using highly advanced, data-tracked vessels. Yet, beneath all the GPS tracking and modern engineering, this entire global system relies on a legally precarious piece of paper called a contract of affreightment, more commonly known as a charter party. Despite the enormous financial stakes, these agreements are rarely written for the 21st century. Instead, they are frequently copied and pasted from outdated standard forms drafted over 100 years ago, like the New York Produce Exchange form from 1913. The text is so old that today's operators of modern diesel-powered vessels still sign agreements containing clauses that dictate the quantity and cost of coal needed to replace fuel burned in the crew's grates and stoves. When you govern high-speed global trade with the language of the steam age, you create a legal minefield. A single ambiguous, outdated word can tie up a vessel and trigger a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Before a ship even leaves the dock, these maritime contracts exist to answer one specific question. If something goes wrong out on the water, who actually pays for it? This sliding scale illustrates how risk is transferred. On one extreme, you have a voyage charter, where the ship owner maintains total control of the vessel and absorbs the operational risks. On the exact opposite end is the bareboat charter. Here, the charterer assumes total control, staffs the crew, and takes on all financial risk for the period, almost as if they owned the ship themselves. In the middle is the time charter. The charterer rents the shipping crew for a set period, paying a daily hire rate. Because they are paying by the day and buying their own bunker fuel, the ship's speed and fuel consumption dictate their entire profit margin. This exposes the danger of those old standard forms. The speed and consumption clauses typically guarantee that a ship will travel at about a certain speed, but only in smooth water or good weather. Because the contracts provide no mathematical or legal definitions for smooth or about, charterers and owners are frequently dragged into costly arbitrations, arguing over whether a slight drop in speed was a breach of contract or just an ocean breeze. But the highest stakes, most intensely litigated phase of a voyage usually isn't on the open ocean. It's the arrival at a heavily congested destination port. Look at this countdown timer. It represents lay time, the strictly agreed upon fixed window of time the charterer is granted to load or discharge their cargo. Lay time doesn't begin automatically. By law, the clock is frozen until the ship arrives at the exact specified destination, and the captain formally issues a notice of readiness. In older port contracts, the definition of arriving creates massive friction. If a port is full and a ship has to wait miles offshore at a customary anchorage, the two sides will aggressively dispute whether the vessel has legally reached port. If it hasn't, the notice of readiness cannot be issued, and the laytime clock stays frozen. If the laytime clock does start, and the charterer fails to finish loading before it hits zero, a new counter begins. This is demurrage. It is a severe, liquidated daily damage penalty paid directly by the charterer to the ship owner. Demurrage clauses transform ordinary physical traffic jams at the dock into financial hemorrhages. Companies can bleed thousands of dollars an hour simply waiting for a berth to open. So what happens when the absolute worst occurs and a catastrophic event makes fulfilling the charter party completely impossible? Maritime law provides an escape hatch known as the doctrine of frustration. When invoked successfully, it instantly and completely terminates the contract for both parties, wiping out future obligations. But the threshold to trigger it is incredibly high. You need extreme, supervening circumstances, such as an unforeseen government blockade or the outbreak of a war that renders the voyage strictly illegal. The most absolute example of frustration is the total physical destruction of the subject matter. If the charted vessel is wrecked on a reef, or the specific cargo is destroyed by fire, the contract is permanently dissolved. However, courts draw a hard line here. Simple commercial hardship does not legally qualify. If a voyage is hit with massive delays, or the charterer starts losing millions of dollars on the deal, they are still legally bound to the agreement. Bad business is not frustration. The physical scale of the global economy relies on massive steel ships and powerful diesel engines. But the financial reality of that economy relies entirely on the precise, fiercely contested words of private maritime contracts. It is the language on the page that actually holds the risk of the world together.